Hello, fine people, and welcome to the thing that we keep missing now. Uh, this like the second time in 3 weeks. I forgot. It's been no, okay. The last time that we missed was just because we were both busy. This was just kind of because we both forgot. Gonna be completely honest. It's been a busy and stupid time. Um, he's got a second strain of corona. My government's getting cooed or whatever. You know, excuses.
Just the standard stuff.
Yeah. Gotta. We really should have been focusing on what's actually important. I hit the 7,000 posts milestone.
Oh shit! Congratulations. I don't know what to say congratulations to that, honestly, though.
No, that's not a good thing. it's a it's a bad thing. It's a
Yeah, I'm sure.
very bad thing. But you know what?
I
It's
think it's
also okay. It's not very like I like being on Smogon. Let's be real. It's
yeah,
okay.
I think it's a cool thing when you're like 1,000, 2,000, and as soon as you get to like beyond that, it's like, oh fuck, I need to be doing something else, isn't
I like the time I
it?
put in here. It's I don't regret it. Anyway, because we missed a week, there's a lot of big things that happened it's kind of too late to cover. Like we've just moved past that. Like there was a tier shift, and we lost 5 mons. That's old news. We get it. No, I have to go over that. I didn't even remember that the tier shift was between that we hadn't done anything since then. And then we banned an awful lot of things. And I guess that's not completely old news because some people aren't super happy that like we banned Septile, we banned Tauros, but I don't know that we can say that much because we're both like, no, those were pretty fine, and or at least like on Tauros, which is the one that's come up now, we're both like very solidly not just banned it. This is silly. Like,
Yeah, I think it's a fine mentality to be like, well, the council should maybe have not banned something that might have been banned. The reality is that the council wants to get to a point where we can do like suspect tests as quickly as possible, even if that means retesting a Septile or retesting a Tauros.
oh no,
Um,
like we could
just
do suspect. Like we could have not banned it and then suspect tested it. It's more get to balanced meta now and then start
yeah,
spamming the
exactly.
suspects.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to get to a point where it's just like the meta was actually in a point where we didn't have to worry about an S plus rank Pokemon. And with most of those gone now, only really a couple of standout broken remain, and I think we can work well as a tier and a community now to try and see whether those are like the real issues at hand. I don't think it's worth wasting the energy to go after a Tauros run.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Rose suspect. Could we suspect Rose Raid now? Yes, absolutely. But the sentiment is so pro ban all over the place. There's like two or three people bothering to make anti ban arguments. It is really strong. I just want to eliminate it and move on to Virizion, get more time. I would like to suspect Virizion and then probably after that, like jump right into retesting Tauros or Septile. Like right then. Or Rose, I guess. Um, that just seems I want to just move past the stuff that feels like Rose Raid feels really already decided in a way. Like in the way that people talk about suspects. Like, oh, suspects are a problem. People always bandwagon. Everything gets banned. That's how Rose feels. Virizion doesn't feel like that. It feels like it could be a legitimate question about whether we ban this thing and how people feel. And that's what I'd rather spend my time doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think the key thing also is to notice that the councillors are what 8 really good historical names in PU, and if 7 out of 8 of those people want to ban something, I'd understand if it was like a 5 out of 8, like a really close decision, and it gets banned by like a almost like by a super by a margin, right? But when it's 7 out of 8 people saying, yeah, this is ridiculous, then I don't think there's really much
I
behind
guess, but like
keeping it.
in general, you do want things decided by suspects. Council should be deciding what gets voted on, not just voting on it. It's only because like suspects weren't feasible. Like, no, I do want the public to decide, but this also a Rose quick ban with 7 out of the 8 of the council, with everyone being so pro ban in NP posts in the room in Discord. It would just be a lot faster, I think, to move past Rose. I don't think it would be a super worthwhile suspect. And this is like the last time we could do that. Next time we get something that's that stupid, we're going to have to suspect it. But we're on the tail end of this just being a nice little time saver. So I say go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we also, I think people really got the wrong impression on Archeops and Toxicroak. And I wrote about it a little bit in the Discord, but to put something on the sheet like them is the pros are you get to see how, like, A, council's considering them a big threat, keeping an eye on them, and B, who is already like, oh, these are broken. The downside is that it might be boosting the profile of something that doesn't deserve to be looked at with that level of scrutiny. That's where I think something like Arctivish comes in. It's not good enough to be worth putting it on that pedestal. I think these two mons are like good enough and questionable enough that we should be like, hey, we're looking at them. We are considering this. And that's really all they're there for. I don't think it's a real threat that they're going to get quick banned. To me, that's another method of communicating there. It's far from the first time we've done that. I feel like it's just worth stating again.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think, personally speaking, a lot of the things that get put on a pedestal sometimes are either not broken or, are like a consequence of, I guess, fear that the meta is like getting out of hand. But I feel like everybody's just sort of tired of that mentality now. I think it's just time to at least give some of the responsibility, or keep some of the responsibility within the community, and I do suspect tests and whatever to make sure right decisions from now on.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going. This is ideally the last quick vote. Just in Gen 8 if everything goes perfectly, but, we also did a viability rankings. That was kind of weird. We wouldn't have done this early if people didn't seem to really want a VR. And I was like, okay, I'll set one up. So I don't know how highly people think of this. There's a lot of questions. This shouldn't be there. Archeops in S is a big thing that people were maybe not so happy with, and I agree. I don't think it should be S, but I don't think it's a huge problem that's an S. Also, Charizard being over Talonflame. Whatever. I just don't really care at all about, it's wrong and we're going to change it. But aside from that, I don't think it's notable or whatever. Just, this is wrong, and then move on.
I don't really have too much. I personally thought that it was too early to make like a proper VR, but just out of, interest, we decided to make one. There will be some mistakes, and that's fine. We'll change.
The people demanded it. And some things are ranked off the opinion of, one council member who's used it. I don't think anyone other than Telenet used Flapple. That's just how it be. That's just, or Malamar is not getting very much usage at all right now. I think 2 people said they'd used it. Whatever. That's okay. People wanted a VR. Yeah, it's not a bad approximation of if you look at S through A, it's yep, those kind of tend to be the big mons. Yep. Okay, what's next? And with all that out of the way, I think we can get to the main topic for pretty much the entire rest of this. Low tier Premier League. It's got PU games. It's got a lot of them. It's the weird manager choosing what tiers get played format. And gosh darn, wouldn't you know, they just keep choosing PU. So we have 7 games from week 2 and another 6 from week 3 to go over out of 4 matchups. There's no replays threads. We're just gonna have to scroll through until we find the first one that happened, which looks like in week 2 the first one would be Jerry versus Sensei Axu. I'm on Jerry's team, and I don't remember who made this. I think he made it, and I went, and then I gave him some things to change, and then they played on Smog Tours, and those things didn't change. The team didn't get fixed, and that really hurt him. That made this a much more difficult game than it ought to have been. Um, I'm trying to remember what the changes should have been. Yeah. So the Duraludon was sub iron defense because that stuff was broken. Um, and the last move was Dragon Pulse instead of Flash Cannon, so he couldn't fish for Spadef drops versus Sensei's Sigilif. And then the Girder was supposed to be defog, but it was bulk up instead, so he couldn't remove the 3 spikes or 2 spikes and rocks Sensei set. And that was like real killer for this game. I like Sensei's team. He played well, but then he lost late game to Scarf Togue flinching because it just be like that sometimes.
Yeah, Scarf Toad is quite stupid. Right. I actually think Sensei's team is a bit offensively flawed, given that he has no real special Pokemon no special switch-ins, essentially, which could have been really dangerous in the meta with Duraludon and stuff. But he plays Parasite quite well, which is his main momentum efficiency. So I don't hate it too much, I guess.
You're sort of cutting in and out. It's a little weird, but yeah, I think you were saying the Palossand momentum deficiency. Yeah, I think the lack of a special switch-in or whatever is mostly like he just wants to pivot with Steel Volley.
That's fair. I mean, the Steel Volley is going to be the main switch-in, but as soon as you have something that doesn't want to take Savali can't resist everything. So, like, waters have ice beams hit the Roserade, then you're fucked. Fire types in general.
Yeah.
Get past Kabutops. It just becomes a bit of a middle ground. But he plays those Pokemon quite well over the course of, and his matchup wasn't too bad. Well,
no, his matchup was good, especially since without defog, that really hurt. There are definitely things that Sensei does kind of just give up on though. Yeah, like Rain Dance Kingdra, even Dragon Dance maybe. That's just gonna blow right through this team immediately. But that is part of that meta. It generally worked out versus what Jerry had. But Jerry was able to put it down to a flinch deciding the game, and then he got the flinch, and that's Togue. Togue does that more than enough.
Yeah, Togue is fantastic at doing that type of stuff. It's it's a mini Jirachi for a reason.
Yeah, I don't like it. 4, I'm trying to pull up all the replays. 5, 6, should be one more later. Where to go? Can't find it. This is excellent content. I know. You don't have to tell me. I know this. Okay, I couldn't find it. I'll have to look for it. Okay. The next game, I think, is TJ versus LST.
I don't think the last game happened, by the way. I think you're talking about Lax versus somebody else. I don't think that game happened.
Lax versus... What am I looking at? PU... List versus Lax never happened. No wonder I couldn't find it. Thank you. The next game that happened was LST TJ. They both have the teams feel a little weird. Like they kind of look more like what I'd see now. They just feel kind of like not as broken as I would expect. If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I feel like they're definitely leaning balance side of things. Although LST is much more like classical in how balance approaches a match with like pivot mons and not really loads of offensive pressure, but really relying on those hazards. Whereas TJ sort of spams his team with win cons. It's like you see the Scrafty, the Sigilift, the Varplume, all of those are justifiable win conditions, like in their own right. So this game is always going to come down to how much value LST could get for his hazards versus how much value TJ could get out of his win con.
Absolutely, absolutely. And LSD puts in a lot of work initially with Sword Stance Toxicroak, but he kind of makes two fatal errors relatively early game that are what let TJ win late game. He gets a Lowland Persian in on Sigilif and then goes for Knock instead of just Trick, and doesn't get to trick the incoming Vileplume and gets FX4 paralyzed. That sucked. And then Toxicroak, after it dodges asleep on Vileplume, subs as TJ goes hard Gigalith predicting that and dies to Sand plus the sub recoil. And those two things really messed LST up because he sort of stopped having ways to do enough damage to break TJ's team. And TJ has very little left, but essentially just wins the rest with Sigilif plus Vileplume. Without like anything LSD can do really.
Yeah, I felt that was the main problem with LSD's team. Like from the get-go, you were like, okay, it doesn't really take much for Vileplume to sweep LSD's team. Like it doesn't have much to pressure it. So it turns out they had sub-swords. That thing needed to be far more healthy. If like you couldn't really use it to break mid-game.
Yeah, he got it super weakened killing Duraludon, which I get because he was definitely pretty Duraludon weak. He could have just kept spamming Flash Cannon over and over for no cost.
Yeah.
But something else had to be figured out. And like he had techs for Vileplume that could work. You know, you have spikes into the sub-psychic Whimsicott lure. That's not nothing. You've got a sub-SD Toxicroak too. Like you've got a Trick Persian. These are all ways that can work. It's just at the end of the game he never got any of them off, and then Vileplume just won.
Yeah, Vileplume was far too high of HP. Like he struggles to force it out in the first place for spikes to really take into effect, you know? Like if you could force it out and then like sack something and then you can bring in your Psychic Whimsicott, you're fine. But or even Psychic Claydol for that matter. But like still, it's too high of a health for anything on LSD's team after Toxicroak dies to really put it in range and really scare it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think LSD can. I think he can rest easy that he didn't really like misplay too heavily. He did make a couple of like objectionable plays, but I don't think you can say like no, you just suck this game. So I think you go back to you understand like the errors in the team builder and backstrong.
I mean, I don't know that it was builders. Like he had the tools for Plume, they just never got off. I don't know that it's a builder thing as much because if you're gonna like this is the kind of meta where you're accepting I'm gonna have some weaknesses, and the Plume one really could be a lot worse. Like it's not hard to imagine LST getting up 2 spikes, subbing with Whimsicott on the Scrafty as TJ goes Vileplume, and then 2-KOing the Vileplume with the Psychic or something. Like that's a reasonable scenario.
I think actually where we're not giving enough credit is probably TJ because he I guess maybe knew all of these traps and he still managed to maneuver his way around them. I don't know particularly that I enjoyed how LSD played either, so I don't know. It was a weird game, and I feel like stylistically maybe TJ got it right over LSD.
Yeah, for sure. I also would like to say this is the second game where we saw Calmine Roost, Psyshock, Dazzling Gleam, Sigilif. Not what you would expect. Both TJ and Jerry brought it for the I want to have a broken ass breaking Sigilif, but I don't want to just lose to just to get walled by Guzzlord. I approve.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Scrafty, I guess.
I mean, yeah, the steel types aren't really of huge impact, so yeah, I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. We have Zelmog versus Pink Dragon Tamer. PDT's got like, oh yeah, that looks like an offense, all right. Pretty basic. And Zelmog's got, oh yeah, that looks like a terrain offense, all right. Um,
Yeah, pretty much.
like they're just yep, that's exactly what you would expect, really. The one surprise I guess was Zelmog's lead Excelgor. Like it's a lead spikes that he just let off with, but it was throat spray instead of sash. That was pretty fun. Um, Zelmog won this one pretty quickly because PDT missed a sleep powder, and that just ended the game. Like he sacks Ndidi very early for terrain, to the point where realistically he was probably only getting a single chance to terrain to like do any terrain stuff. Um, and that single chance was Thievel dodging sleep powders at Nasty plotted, and that was just the game. So I guess it worked. Oh no, I forgot. PDT like sacks two things and then goes Silvally Fairy. I guess it died if Psychic Terrain was still up. But either
Yeah.
way, Smash Omastar also, if that was Endure, probably winning this game. Uh,
Yeah, honestly, I just feel like Zomog's team was just way more threatening than PDT's team. Um, I feel like most things on PDT's team required a turn to set up before they became a threat, whereas instantly, when you have the Psychic Terrain bullshit going on, everything on that team becomes a threat. Like Hitmonlee, Sceptile,
yeah,
Omastar, even, like Thievul,
yeah.
everything is scary.
The triple unburden definitely should have won, especially since PDT loses Talonflame to kill the Excelgor. At that point, Sceptile should just be winning here. If Zalmog hadn't like let Ndidi, which I guess was not Scarf, I guess he assumed PDT was going to assume Zalmog's Ndidi was Scarf, and PDT just hard U-turned on it with his Passimian and left Ndidi like dead to rocks. So then he couldn't, like he didn't have more time to do terrain setup. But if he just played that a little safer, and kept like the ability to do multiple terrain mons, that was it. He was just gonna win. That matchup was already really good, and T Flame dying to Excelgor of all things was just should have
I
been
did
it.
like the SL tech. Usually you see Final Gambit bullshit, but I like the fact that it was throat spray and actually doing damage.
Mm-hmm. And like, if I had to guess, it was just for a meme to have yet another unburdened mon, but it was still funny.
Oh,
It still didn't seem bad, but my guess is it
yeah,
was just
yeah.
a meme to have four unburdens. Okay, next game, me versus Drud. I brought a fun little spikes team with Braviary. I like Braviary's good. Frostlass spikes are good, but Braviary isn't good because of Defiant. It doesn't really Defiant, but like because it's spikes and Braviary, I think of it as Braviary spikes. If you get what I mean.
Huh.
And Drud has what looks like a very basic balance. You've got like the Palossand, T-Flame, Silvally Core, and then the Passimian, Heliolisk, Volt Turn, and
Yeah, it's just
the
Volturn and
Specs.
Duraludon.
I think it was Specs Duraludon. I don't actually remember. Like it looks extremely basic, like exactly what you would expect. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a Specs Duraludon. Um, this was a pretty fun
Yeah.
game. I think the biggest mistake from Drud was just doing a really obvious Heliolisk switch in on turn 10. It gets OHKO'd and did nothing. Heliolisk was possibly the thing I was scared most of. Like, it is pretty annoying. Um, and then after that, we kind of just had a good little back and forth. Um, but I had a really nice advantage from that. Braviary was really good until the end of the game, where I calc incorrectly, think that Braviary is going to be able to do enough damage to Palossand to put it in range of Duraludon's Draco after Shore Up, and that was just wrong. I didn't do enough damage actually, and it came down to a Palossand face-off, where fortunately mine was. I have to check the chat because I asked him about this. Mine was 8 speed EVs and he was 4 speed EVs, so I still won after throwing.
Ah, damn. That's brutal. Why would you run 4 speed EVs? That's a rookie mistake. Always run 16.
Yeah. It was not good, but other than that, I like this game. I like the teams. Obviously, I like my team. I mean, well, no, that's not true. I've hated teams I brought, but I liked my team. It was fun. Yeah, and Drud's stuff just seemed perfectly fine. He did a very obvious Heliolisk switch in, and just that hurt so much.
Yeah, Heliolisk was it just in general is such a big threat because forcing those 50-50s with the Palisand is just something you don't want to have to deal with, even if it just exists. Like the fact that you need to keep your Palisand alive is something that needs to happen. So
Well,
yeah, that
Heliolisk
was
just
unfortunate.
at that point, my Palisand was like toxic and weakened. His Heliolisk is presumably, I think, it was Boots. It's got to be Grass Knot or Surf. So Palisand's not like a solid answer. You got to like go Palisand double Whimsicott or something. Like I have tools. I have Whimsicott, Scarf, Duraludon, and Frostlass. But like Heliolisk's mere presence and the fact that nothing like is just gonna straight Oko it means that it's like too useful to just die with after doing nothing. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
absolutely.
Kink Evigero. Kink brought just a wild team that I do not understand. And I think Eevee just like wasn't ready for weird stuff is the thing. Like Eevee Dracos into a Machamp with Specs Duraludon turn 1, ends up being AV Machamp and just returns an Okos it like that. That was really bad. That hurt a lot. Um, After that, things kind of just end up going back and forth. Um, but Eevee's pretty weak to Scarf and Didi. Like there's the Gigalith pivot, and then the Scarf rode him out speeds. And I get that there's not a lot more that you could do, and Didi's pretty broken, but that was like it. So Kink is doing a lot of work, like way too much work with the Indeedee. And then sets up with Unburdened Sceptile and crits the Talonflame with Acrobatics. Evigero was almost certainly not going to win anyway. There were like some slight odds if there was no crit, like Talonflame Brave Birds doubles down Sceptile, and then if you can get Rotomin and Defog, then Gigalith lives a hit, or you have the opportunity to double to Virizion on the Runerigus. Like they're outs, but it's not good.
Yeah, I just said Eevee was unprepared for bullshit. That's as much as I want to say, to be honest.
Yeah, and you kind of have to because this is like Kink's normal stuff, just weird teams
Bullshit.
that don't fit together defensively, but gonna have some offensive stuff. And then the offensive stuff was just Scarf and DD plus Sceptile, like a pretty basic core, but it was really too much for Eevee's team.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think a lot of people put too much pressure on T-Flame as like a revenge killing mechanism. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I mean,
I see far
it
too
would
many,
have
like,
worked. It would have worked for Sceptile. It is still silly. The Kink Sceptile crit the T Flame and then crit the Rotom just back to back, like killing
Yeah.
things. Like no Sceptile should be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Eevee's fault because I deem at this point Sceptile to be just a broken Pokemon, to be honest. Because even then, like Sceptile can run Rock Slide or whatever, and your Talonflame is fucked unless you have what's it called, Gale Wings active. So, yeah, I think Eevee got cheesed by the broken mod. She didn't have any of her own. That
Yeah.
team's probably half decent in this meta, by the way.
What is?
Eevee's team probably half decent in this meta or the post-ban meta.
Yeah, only Duraludon has to be replaced, and just stick another Spexmon on. Yeah, probably. It
Yeah,
actually
like they just run an SD Silvally Steel. You're good, bro.
it actually would be. Yeah, I don't know about SD Silvally Steel. I feel like Duraludon, the more immediate power is kind of what the team wants. You've already got SD Virizion. Anyway, last game of the week because Lax list didn't happen is Termi Atomic Llamas. Termi has some pretty straight up offense with a Tauros. Nice to see a little bit of Tauros. Llamas has a pretty straight up balance with like I guess less seen than other cores, but still like what I would have considered standard balance at the time. A standard balance score at the time to be Gallerfisk plus Scrafty plus Jellicent. Like this is not the only time I've seen a pretty similar configuration to that. With then Silvally pivot and Alola plus Virizion as two silly offensive mons. Like, yep, checks out. What even?
Yeah, I don't know about Life Orb on Alola. I don't think that's a good item to run on it anymore.
I didn't like that. Yeah, I think Boots is a much better thing to run. But like aside from that, it's like yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird game though. Like just a lot of odd back and forths. Like, a couple of predictions was like I would have done something else. Termi throws Duraludon right into Raichu's Focus Blast, which seems like an intentional sack, but also yeah, that might have just been fine. But I don't know. There are a couple of predictions and stuff. Sacking Guzzlord instead of maybe sacking Tauros to get damage on Virizion, I don't know. That was odd. But then Llamas ended up having Scarf Virizion and completely surprising Termi's Talonflame. And that was the big, that's a problem.
Yeah, I feel like Scarf Virizion is one of these weird. It's one of these weird Scarfers at the moment where it's like it's got the good speed tier, the coverage, it's got everything. It's kind of weak, sure, but the key thing about it is that it has a bit of defensive usage. Like you can switch it into something and still feasibly be a Scarfer at the end of the day.
The problem
I
is
kind of like that. Not gonna lie.
The problem is Llamas is an adamant Scarf Virizion, but Termi still had a role in her favor pretty solidly to just live the hit with Talonflame and then still have good odds to win.
Yep.
But
that's the problem.
That didn't happen.
Yeah. It's the problem with Virizion. When you snap a Scarf, I used to use Scarf Virizion back a lot during the XY Oras days in like RU back in the day, and NU when it was in like beta. But the key problem with it has always been like it's very dodgy when it comes down to revenge killing things because it's only got like 90 attack or somewhere in that region, right?
90 attack, so, yeah. Even with Adamant, the fact that like doing 36 to Termi's bulky Talonflame was a roll not in Llama's favor. That kind of shows off the problem with it. But it didn't matter because Llama's got the crit and then that was it. It wasn't over by any means. Like Termi didn't have a guaranteed win there if she got the roost off. But I think Termi had pretty reasonable odds. Like T-Flame just beats 3 out of 4 of Llama's Mons. Termi has Rose in the back, a Synth Rose in the back to beat the Jellicent, and a Tauros to beat the Jellicent, possibly, depending on... I don't remember if the Jellicent was Boots, but, like, if it's not, then Throat Chop... Throat Chop plus Burned Throat Chop is going to be doing enough to kill it, unless it also gets a Cursed Body off.
Yeah.
So, like, Termi had pretty favorable odds to win if Talonflame lived that.
Yeah.
Sucks, man.
Unfortunate.
Just sucks. All right, week 3. That was only half the games that we have. And actually, we hit that pretty quickly. I do briefly want to say, just the Dewford Ducklets versus the Cherry Grove Chinchinos. Chinchinos won 8-2. The only Ducklets wins were me and Jerry taking PU. So let's go. Let's go. We did it, guys. We're carrying the team. It gets better. We actually won week 3, so it's okay. Week 3, there's still 6 PU games. Just absolutely mental. Give me a sec to pick these games up. But the first one is again Jerry. The first one this week is also going to be Jerry. He just likes playing early. That's just his thing. Which is more than a bit annoying to prep teams because I'm lazy and I definitely wait a good way into the week. But whatever. That's Jerry's prerogative, and he's actually like doing the prepping, so fine with me.
I feel like with Jerry, you have to give him like he's a really dodgy player, but you have to give him a bit of freedom, you know. Like if he likes what he sees, like he'll bring it and he'll win the game. So yeah, I definitely don't hate it.
Let me see. I'm just pulling up all the replays. Okay, I got all 6. Yeah, Jerry versus Zelmog. This was actually kind of fun. They both got some cute little... Jerry, I guess you could call balance. Yeah, it's balance. It's like a defensive core of max HP Charizard, Galarifisk, and Weezing. Scarf Basimian plus offensive sub SD Virizion to try to do some T-Spike stalling. And then for the oddball breaker slot, a sub Arctivish. Like, just not on Hail, just sub Arctivish. It's kind of cool. Like, it's actually funny. And had there been a Fat Water, would have done a lot more work than what it did. Zelmog's got a pretty cool looking offense. Just lots of fun mons. Kabutops, Sneasel, Alolan Egg, Charizard. Couple of more boring things to make it solid, but like I like this. It's fun.
Yeah, I actually I like Jerry's team aesthetically. I like the Firewater Grass, the Steel, the Weezing, Simeon, everything. It just looks nice. I like it. I would say about Zelmog's team is that he really does not like switching into a Persimmon, like on a pivot. And he has a couple of things which will just click U-turn and not really fear about anything. Like, you don't want to be staying in on the U-turn on like Eggy or with Sneasel or anything.
Yeah.
So
multiple U-turn weaknesses, and the resists to fighters are Silvally Fairy plus Charizard. Like, can work, but it's one of those things that I'm gonna have to play this really offensively.
Yeah, I have to play it right mainly.
Yeah, which he does for the most part. Like, this is a pretty close back and forth game. Makes one very odd play on turn 19 that I've still just been thinking about, where I can't tell what the egg is, because it genuinely seems like it's Scarf, and I don't know if I'm crazy. Like, it plays like it's choice locked. Oh, I mean, it plays like it's choice locked, but it doesn't do enough damage. I don't know. And then, it's definitely choice. I'm almost certain it's Scarf, Alolan Exeggutor. Like, look at turn 19 and 20. Jerry has Weezing, Virizion, Charizard, Passimian left. Zelmog goes for Flamethrower twice. Like, that has to be Scarf, and you just don't want to get Draco drops for the sub Virizion, right? Like, there's no other.
A double there? Question mark?
No, that's a Scarf Alolan Eggy, I'm telling you.
Nah, it's gotta be. You're right.
It's gotta be a Scarf. Like, I don't see any other explanation. That's the thing.
I don't know, dude.
He also has Endure Kabutops, which is something I just really like in general. Like, I want to see more of it. Didn't do anything because T-Spikes were up, but Anyway, this actually came pretty close down to the wire, but Jerry had Scarf Passimian, and that was a really big threat to Zelmog's team with T-Spikes. Silvally Fairy dies too fast.
Yeah,
Charizard's got other things to do. So Jerry just basically engineered it where I've got 2 fighting types left, and you've got 3 things that just die. And Zelmog's only way to win was get a flinch with Scarf Togue, basically.
He gets one, but then he get the next.
Oh no, he needed 2. He could have played it to where he needed 2 flinches, to where he only needed 1 flinch. Like, he could have forced Jerry to close combat. But I guess he didn't think about Jerry having Earthquake and sacked Eggy instead of Sneasel. So yeah, he needed 2 flinches on the Passimian with the Togue.
Got one, but didn't get the next.
Yeah. So this is the second game in a week that Jerry has won where it's come down to Togue flinches.
Yeah. I feel like it's so long ago now. You remember this was like an argument back in early SM when like Passimian was being compared to Primate. That feels like such a long time ago now. Jesus. And like this is precisely the reason why Passimian got so much more popular. Just being bulky enough to take 2 Iron Heads from a Scarf Gerard. I was about to say Scarf Gerard. Scarf Toge is huge. It is,
but also like knockoff's a really big deal. Like, that shouldn't.
Oh yeah, especially in freaking SS, dude. That's massive.
Yeah, that shouldn't be understated. But yeah, like, actually having that bulk to take things is crazy. Like, well, we'll see in my game versus TJ. Passimian lives a pretty big hit, and that's not something anything else. And like a Primeape or Scarf Mienshao even, that they're not doing that. Okay, next game is Eternal Spirit versus LST. They both have Pretty fun looking teams. Eternal Spirits is a little bit on the weirder side because it's like offense, but then he's got a Last Mon Crowtomb Wincon. Like, that's pretty out there. LST's a lot more what I would expect. But the teams kind of don't really matter because Eternal Spirit just like out offenses the fuck out of LST. He plays
it feels like
a very good offense. No, that was it. Sorry.
Very much so. Yeah, I'd say Eternal's team just feels like there's pressure in every slot, even though there shouldn't be, realistically speaking. It definitely managed to abuse LST's like lack of pressure in certain areas. Like Stunfisk is not a high pressure Pokemon, neither is a Lotus Slash or Jellicent nowadays. Like all three of those things super passive. Ribombee isn't what we'd call a ridiculous breaker. Roserade,
no, but and also Ribombee's not boots, and that certainly like is gonna always limit its effectiveness.
Exactly, yeah. Especially when you have like an offense team with a Scarfer a Rocker as powerful as Archeops. It's like it's not gonna be easy to keep those hazards off the field. And yeah, Archeops actually gets like 2 or 3 kills, doesn't it? Like, just lead Archeops with Head Smash, which is pretty crazy, to be honest, considering there's a Stunfisk.
It does, but again, only because Eternal Spirit, like, really just outplays LST hard. Like, he Head Smashes into Stunfisk as LST tries switching to his own Archeops. And his own Archeops, like, just dying and doing nothing, definitely did not help. Because it beat pretty much everything on Eternal Spirit's team except for Mesprit, and I guess 100% Passimian might live a dual wing bait. I have no idea. Let me see.
Yeah.
That would actually be interesting to know. Passimian, Archeops, Pew showdown usage, dual wing beat. After rocks, dual wing beat is an 81.3% chance to OHKO. So, no. But without rocks, Passimian has a good odds to live.
Interesting. Yeah, but I think LST, knowing that it was now Crowtomb, LST's prep for that was just non-existent in comparison. You can't just have a non-boots Ribombee for a Crowtomb. Like, that's a really hard matchup to face. Just in general, to be honest. So, yeah. I mean, it was pretty chalked after the amount of pressure ES got.
Yeah. Like only Ribombee is going to handle that. And you've got Spinner, Lola Slash, and non-boots Ribombee. Eternal Spirit has a lot of time to make that work, even if he doesn't like hard out offense you, which is just kind of what happened.
Yeah,
it was just powerful from him. Me versus TJ. This was fun. TJ has a somewhat similar team, I guess, in concept to LST's, but I think it works a lot better. It's again the Passimian Rose, Alola Slash Archeops, but I think the last 2 Mons just make a lot more sense. Like, Palossand covers a lot. Heliolisk, better offensive momentum here than Ribombee. Just checks out, you know. Oh, I'm sorry. LST didn't have a Passimian. It was also a Jellicent. I don't know. I feel like TJ's team kind of comes close, but I think it's just like, yep, that's pretty solid offense right there.
Yeah.
And I went whack. I went with like a weirder offense that I think generally works. I think this team is good if I can if I can really outplay and get the offense going. I think it kind of rolls people. But I think it's very easy to fuck up and start letting Pokemon become really major threats. And I also didn't think about Archeops, which is a problem. I have Sock as my like in the back catch-all thing. And I forgot that Archeops dual wing beat would kind of invalidate that, and that just makes Archeops a really big problem that I just didn't think about when I made the thing Sock.
Yeah, I feel like the key things to note are the Sorg and the what is it called? I forget what the thing's even called. Center Scorch. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Those are the 2 key things. And if you think about it, Center Scorch has like a okay matchup. Like, it's a powerful matchup, and Sork itself has like again an okay matchup.
No, Sock has a terrible matchup. Sock has a really bad matchup because
you're only really knocking into the Palossand, but that's like a good thing for offense to force in.
I can force in the Polisand, but I'm slower than, like, I'm not beating Rose. I'm not beating Scarf Passimian. Heliolisk is volting out. Archeops is dual wing beating it. All I abuse is the Alolan Sandslash, which is not a threat at all. Sock is pretty much entirely useless here. It does nothing. That was really the problem.
Yeah, in this matchup, you would definitely have preferred to have a, I don't know, like a more offensive fighting.
I would have rather had Kadabra.
Kadabra's fire, dude. Don't hate on Kadabra.
I'm not. Anyway, the other funny thing is this is Life Orb mixed Virizion, but physically biased instead of specially. Specially gets the Leaf Storms, but physically gets like just to more spam close combat and critically Zen Headbutt, which I really found I liked. Max attack Zen Headbutt. Funny side story: Showdown changed my thing for whatever reason, took off 4 EVs from a couple of my Mons, and made Virizion adamant. Or not adamant. Plus attack minus not special attack, you know. But plus attack, not plus speed. I don't know why that got changed. It didn't matter, because Virizion outspeeds Roserade anyway, and is outsped by, like, the other stuff anyway. But that could have been real bad. That's just your fun behind-the-scenes fact. There are a few points I wish I had played more offensively, and there are a few points I think TJ wishes he had made some differences. I wish I had Power Whipped again into his Archeops. Scentiscorch had good odds to live defeat his dual Wing Beat, but I was afraid of Rock Slide, so I just went hard Regirock. TJ misses a Sleep Powder that would have meant, like, he misses a Sleep Powder turn 5, and on the one hand, that would have been a really huge and very helpful thing for him to have. On the other hand, it's hard to pin a whole loss on a turn 5 Sleep Powder dodge. That's awkward. I stayed in with Regirock on Roserade, trying to predict a Sludge Bomb, because I thought that made the most sense for him to click. The Regirock is T-Wave Rindo Berry with enough speed to outspeed Paralyzed Roserade to Paraflinch it. It's a good set, I promise. Like it works. That's how my offense staves it off, because Roserade is really annoying. I've got that plus I'd like to reveal Leaf Storm Virizion and then Zen Headbutt the Rose, because Leaf Storm tends to run Air Slash. I've also got Fire Fang on Silvally instead of Flamethrower, which does a lot more. Like, I basically just try to lure it, because Rose is silly, and I didn't want to use Silvally Steel.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing I said Passimian lived, like, nothing else lived. Passimian lived an Adamant Life Orb Virizion Zen Headbutt. Like,
that's nuts to me.
After Rocks, Rocks plus that Zen Headbutt left it at 20. Like, that's really respectable.
Yeah, it's kind of sad in Virizion's aspect, but also really, like, crazy from Passimian. It's like kind of both play into it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah, we basically just offense back and forth, and I think both of us wish we'd play more offensively. He hard close combats into my Silvally. A U-turn would have been really huge there, and then sacks Sandslash instead of, like, figuring out something else to go on Silvally. But he also is getting what he needs, which is significant Regirock chip and putting himself in a position for Archeops to win, because Archeops looks real good here, you know? It do be like that sometimes. We're kind of just trading back and forth.
What was your speed control, by the way? Was it just Sword?
No, you'll see, actually. So it's 4 mons to 3, and I leave my Regirock. I have Regirock and an Archeops. I don't double. At that point, if I switch out and back in to Rocks, I'm going to be in EQ range. So I don't double. I just try to Rock Slide, predicting him to double to Archeops on Virizion over and over. I spam Body Press, predicting him to double on Virizion, and he just recovers with Pulse and kills me. I'm like, okay, I can get Virizion in. And this is the other, like, really big offense play I wish I'd made, which is I should have just hard close combated Polisand, predicting him to go Heliolisk, because it made perfect sense to take the Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm was a roll, but, like, roll plus dodge, TJ's favor, that's the kind of thing you have to risk, and he does do that. I actually miss Leaf Storm, which lets me live Hyper Voice, which otherwise would have been a roll, and then trade Virizion to kill Heliolisk. But at that point, it's just a series of 50-50s. I have, and the only reason I win this is because TJ, I think it's a little bit lazy here. I go Heliolisk on his Archeops. I reveal that I'm not Boots. He should have immediately gone Polisand afraid of Choice Scarf. Unless he thought about that and was like, well, maybe he's Surf, or maybe he's going to Grass, not predicting that. Either way, he leaves Archeops in. I get the Volt off. Archeops dies to Scarf Heliolisk. And then it becomes just a 50-50, like an extended series of 50-50s where I win if I get Heliolisk in on Polisand safely, but if he Earth Powers on the switch, I die. And Heliolisk can't Oko Polisand, so I have to get it right. Or get the Poison Jab Poison, which I don't get. Because I need Sock to kill the Polisand, and I do get it right. I switch in Heliolisk on a not Earth Power, and I win the game with a 15% Toxic Sock.
Let's go Sock! Woo!
Yeah, I did feel like that was worth going over in more detail, not just because it was a my game, but I thought this was a really good game. I think, like, it's the kind of thing if I was still doing it. If I was still doing it, I definitely would do like a longer form single video analysis on it. I think we both make clear mistakes in trying to use our offensive pressure, but like not huge ones. Not like, I don't think either of us played like awful or anything. I'm just like, this is a good showcase for this is what you should have done. This is how things could have gone a bit differently. I liked the teams. Yeah, I just thought this one was really fun and my favorite game of LTPL so far. So I'm really happy I was a part of it and that I won. Although again, I almost lose to Polisand a lot. It's kind of the trend. Okay.
Next game we bring X-Cloud. We bring it back from the dead.
That's how we kill Polisand? I don't think it's worth it. Okay. Yep. Pepe versus Kink. They both bring wild teams, as is expected from both of them. Pepe just doesn't play this one well. I think.
Yeah, I see a Kingler. I'm immediately scared for Pepe.
I think last game you can argue Evagero kind of messes up not expecting it from Kink, but it's more of a matchup thing. I don't even think that's what it is here. It looks like Pepe is going to lose to Sturdy Boots cost in the back late game, but regardless of that, Pepe like at least has some threats to do some good breaking here, and he kind of just doesn't play well. He kind of just gets bodied in a way that like he never should have. Like I think Kink played perfectly fine versus Evagero. I think Kink made some stupid plays here, like some big fuck ups, and it didn't matter. Pepe was just not playing well. Just gets hard out offense all over the place. Volts into Claydol multiple times with Vika Volt. Doesn't glare the Passimian. Like Pepe did not play well. And he just dies Pepe way too fast.
It's really bad when you're playing offense. You need to be on the front foot quite often, and it felt like he was never on the front foot. He was always working around what Kink was playing. So I guess you can give Kink some credit there to just generally keep up a lot of pressure on each move Pepe had to make. But yeah, when the mid-game breaking is being done by a Scarf Passimian, that it's kind of chalk.
Yeah, like Kink didn't play awfully. He just made like multiple clear mistakes. Like that was really weird. Why would he do that? Like when he sword stance with Savali on the Vigavolt, that was just very odd. That kind of thing. And it wasn't terrible. It was just like really Pepe just lost the game at him. Like it would have been very hard for Kink to lose this game with everything that happened, which was kind of silly because I don't know. This team was bizarre and I didn't really like it, and I also wanted to see more of it. Kink is 3-0 now, and obviously I'm pretty sure week 1 he hacks the hell out of someone. So there's that, but like regardless, these last two wins from him have just been bizarre. Oh no, week 1 he haxed me. Yeah. His wins have just been bizarre. Like the Evagero into this one.
Kink is a god though. So
speaking of bizarre wins, Chloe brings offense with Basculin and Sarina versus Termi's relatively standard team. And Termi kind of ends up folding to non-choice Psychic Fang's Basculin that just kills Termi's Toxicroak, and then, that was supposed to be the check, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't seen Chloe play competitive PU for a while now, so this is quite fun. When was it the last time I seen her play?
Like
Probably PUPL, right?
the PUPL before last PUPL, I think, something like that.
Yeah, that's
Like
crazy.
not the most
Like, so,
not the most recent one. Like Chloe's always
yeah,
stuck
yeah,
around
not
and
the,
played, but never like super seriously. She's joined some seasonals, whatever. Um, I don't think Chloe played bad at all. It's just I can't say she played amazing just because she had a kind of auto win Basculin right there that just messed Termy up hard.
yeah, I'd go with that.
The only reason I'm not
I
giving her
think,
more credit is because you couldn't. It's like if I'm let's go to a chess metaphor. If I'm Magnus Carlsen playing against you, I can't have that much credit for doing a flawless victory. It's like,
yeah, but it's not that it's Magnus Carlsen versus you can't really call Tammy
no,
beating
I'm
chess. Like
I'm not saying Termy's bad. I'm just saying like the matchup was fucked.
yeah, that's like Magnus Carlsen versus me, but Magnus had like 5 pieces of head start. You know what I mean?
Sure, okay. If I play you in chess and you start without your queen or rooks, I'm not going to get that much credit for doing a flawless victory. That's the only reason.
Exactly.
Chloe didn't. That's all I'm saying. Chloe didn't play bad. Chloe just had the win by dint of that Basculin, which cool. I liked the non-choice Psychic Fang's Basculin. That was both a very good pick versus Termy, who has said before that she thinks Toxic Rook is super broken, and a cool mod in general. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I defended, I think, Basculin when we were doing the VR thing. Personally, because I felt like its speed tier was just sort of underutilized within general community. Also, that like Psychic Fangs plus like Flip Turn really makes it like a half decent threat. Also adaptability, but that's less of it. Yeah, just generally having Flip Turn, adaptability, all that type of stuff makes it a really, like, in my opinion, it was like really underutilized thing. So I'm really happy to see at least somebody proving its worth in a quite high profile game. So yeah, I was quite happy.
Making sure that Basculin is not bad skillin. Ha ha ha. Okay. Ninja Dog versus Bag of Tricks. Ninja brings full sun. I don't know how I feel about full sun. I'm glad that someone's messing with it, and I get why, especially like, oh, I don't really play this tier at all. I'm gonna try some cheese, whatever. It does seem like a bit of a flawed playstyle. Like it wouldn't steal a lot of random matchups, and especially in this case, I think Tricks in no way had a great matchup, or no, I'm sorry, had like really random threats that you wouldn't expect to face. But Trix had a pretty good Sun matchup here and was able to like pretty solidly take this one.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a bit, I don't know. I feel like with Sun you always want like the loads of grass Pokemon versus fire types. So it's the same thing with Rain. It's like with Rain you don't want loads of electric types using Thunder. You want the water types with Swift Swim. It's the same sort of thing with Sun. Like you want the chlorophyll things with Solar Beam and Solar Blade, like just powering through, and just really compounding that same type efficiency that you get out of Sun. But you saw a kind of like, I don't know, having like a Center Scorch and Charizard that just opens you up to so much more counterplay. Like suddenly you have to think about more offensive counterplay.
Well,
like,
I think the Zard is fine.
For example.
Having that one Breaker Zard to like get one kill, pressure Gigalith more, because you know Gigalith is coming in on your Sun. Charizard like gives it a place where it wants to do that, and then Focus Blasts the Gigalith and like trades itself for it. Like I get the Zard. Also Centiskorch, very weird. If Ninja Dog had a second Chlorophyll on, he might have won the game. Like Shiftry on its own put a lot of pressure on Talonflame, a lot of pressure. But that was kind of like the only other sweeping threat was Scarf Togue, which got flame bodied very early on. That like Ninja Dog had breaking, but after all that breaking was done, Trix just cleaned up with Scarf Togue because Ninja Dog didn't have anything else.
Doesn't Vileplume get chlorophyll this gen? Or not necessarily this gen.
Vileplume's not in the tier anymore.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
This is week 3.
This is week 3.
But we do have other chlorophyll mons. I mean, we certainly have a Leafeon, which we used to have, which, I mean, it can't be that bad, right?
Yeah, Leafeon I would definitely
like
rate over Sense.
Leaf Blade Knock Double Edge. Whimsicott technically is chlorophyll, but that's, the Sunsetter. Um, there's also
Iggy, I
there's
guess.
also Executor, which isn't fast enough. I don't like. I'm pretty sure Timid Eggy doesn't beat Scarf Togue, but maybe I'm wrong. Um,
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely,
but
definitely don't.
and then there's Lilligant, but I don't think Lilligant's gonna be much. But yeah, Leafeon's got to be your best bet then. Which Leafeon doesn't seem bad.
Yeah, I'd definitely take Leafeon.
Hang on, Eggy, Timid, Chlorophyll in the Sun is 458. Right, same as Arctivish, duh. So Scarf Togue is faster.
The Leafeon.
No, then Eggy. That's why you can't do Eggy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 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 absolutely. I told you Eggy had no shot. Like that's
Yeah.
quite
No,
obvious.
so it had to be. But like, if there was Leafeon, Ninja probably had pretty good odds. Like double Swords Dance, double edge knockoff, Solar Blade or Leaf Blade or whatever. Could have done the breaking four shiftry probably. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
And that
tricks
just makes sense. Like given the Soda Blade knock spam, like it just makes sense in general to go down
like
that route.
Tricks had to do some predicting and pivoting. So I guess if Ninja had gotten like a lot more right, he still had some odds. But this was mostly Tricks' game there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's fundamentally poor to bring Sun versus a Mainer. I think that's just a generally bad idea. Like, sure, if you're trying to cheese somebody who doesn't know the tier, you can go down that route. Especially if you like suspect their team building. But somebody like Tricks, they're like their Achilles heel is not going to be their
Yeah.
teams or their building. It's going to always be like how efficient they play the match.
Well, it's down to
So yeah,
how good is Sun, and I think not good. I think Hail, Blunder Policy Cheese, Trick Room, whatever, even Trick Room, yeah, probably would have gone better than Sun. That's all.
yeah, maybe he's just not confident in his teams or whatever. You can't really read into that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. We can briefly hit week 4 predictions. There's another 6 games, I think. There's LST versus Llamas. That seems like it's gonna be fun. Llamas had one game 2 weeks ago, but he generally uses like pretty interesting stuff, I think.
Yeah, you probably go 60-40 in favor of LSD.
Yeah, like LSC's definitely favored. Llama just does different stuff. Kink Chloe. Kink keeps getting all these
Yeah,
like
I
he's
think.
playing like Pepe and Chloe and Evie and whatever.
Yeah, I think we
But
go
I don't know. I don't
95
think the Kink
Chloe.
cheese has been that good. He had really good matchups twice and then haxed me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm going. That's why I'm going 95 Chloe, 5 King.
Okay, sure. Um, we have Trix versus TJ and Evie versus Zelmog in the same set. That's interesting. I don't know whose building I favor, Trix plus Evie or TJ plus Zelmog. But TJ has been pretty solid. Like he dropped last week to me, but he's been pretty good. Zelmog too. Like I kind of do favor them.
Yeah, I think you definitely favor TJ over Trix, probably like 70-30, just because TJ is like the master of beating up on room regulars, because he knows like the styles, he knows like he studies the tier quite well. He's a good student, so
Mm.
you definitely favor him there. Evie Zom is a much closer game. I'll probably just back Evie 52 to like 48, just because I value that extra little bit of
Yeah.
help from Bag of Tricks, but also like involvement. Yeah. Although Zomog is definitely not bad, which is why it's close.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I just don't think the like TJ's on like both lost last week, and I don't think that's super representative for them.
Yep.
And then you have Lax, Jerry, and Termy versus me. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, personally, I think Jari is the second coming of Jesus in you, so I give him 98 and Lax 2. As far as you versus Termy, I feel like Termy's just been in a bit of a rut, just generally in terms of Pokemon, so this is definitely the week she comes back, so I give her 97 and you 3.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm always a pretty hit or miss player, and I haven't really missed hard yet, which makes me think it's gonna happen soon, and I'll bring something silly, and I'll just get annihilated by like, oh, I didn't prep for that. Oops. Like it almost happened with the Archeops. I didn't have the sets like I had enough to beat Kink, but I could have he had even better sets, stuff like that. I'm just waiting for when I just like fucking flop and die to
Honestly,
Vanillix.
I feel like when you get older, in terms of like the Pokemon community in general, you just generally become less able to flop massively like that. Like you used to be able back in the day, like when
You would think, but
yeah,
I still manage. Anyway, yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
gonna
mean,
be fun.
those are
I haven't even started building yet. I need to make something cool. I want to put on a show. I'll be like, hey, that game was fun. That's my goal.
okay. Cool.
Let's do some gimmick corner. I have what can I talk about? Okay, I'll talk about one thing I actually did use and like, and then one thing that's silly. I think Life Orb physically mixed Virizion is good. I think setup Virizion, I don't like Sword Stance Virizion. Calm Mind is okay. Calm Mind at least is has generally better coverage and isn't just losing to things and can recover without needing a move for it. I think SD dies really fast and drops its own defenses and all that. I don't think SD is good. But Life Orb mixed, I think it just buttons. I think it's good. Like, it just buttons,
Yeah,
yeah. I like
yeah.
it. I think it is the best Virizion set in my experience.
That's a solid call.
And
I
then
like
I'll
that.
say something silly. I have not used it. I have not tried it. I have not seen it. I just thought it up off the top of my head and went, someone should really mess with this. Blunder Policy Zap Cannon Magneton just sounds fun.
Ha! That does sound fun. That does sound fun.
It just,
You're getting +2 speed either way.
yeah, exactly. Like that I want to mess with that, but I don't have time. But if someone would do that, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I can go with that. I'll back you then.
So what have you got?
So first one I guess is courtesy of Specs, Specs Jigglypuff of like 2 years ago with Specs Wheezing. Um, I think, personally speaking, like a lot of the switch-ins that Wheezing, that work versus Specs Wheezing don't work for the physically defensive set, and Wheezing has a lot of like things that are going for it generally in this meta. Um, like it's got a bit more speed and like a bit more special attack than you would expect from a defensive thing. Plus, it's always useful defensively. Um, so in between like Sludge Bomb, Thunderbolt, and like Flamethrower or whatever you want to run, it's got some like decent offensive pressure. Plus, you can always just have T spikes in the last slot just to fish, just in general. So that's never a bad thing, I guess. It's also a useful Rose switch in, so I guess you can never have too many of those. The other thing that I wanted to just would find out actually pretty quickly. So yeah, I think generally people haven't used Serena too often. Like, how many people have you seen use Serena? I've seen Chloe use it in that last game, but
It didn't do anything that last, like it didn't hit a move that last game. Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen some
yeah,
Serena. I was using it when the shift first happened. We had like all the broken mons before we banned stuff, and then and now, a lot of people have been going like, yeah, it's actually not bad, and I totally get why. I'm not a fan. I don't know.
okay.
If we get rid of the other two
I
better grasses, okay. Until then, I just don't think it lives up to Virizion or Rose Raid. I don't know.
yeah, okay, fair enough. And somebody use Flapple for the love of God. I'm tired of people theory moaning about.
Slenit said Flapple's good. I don't know. I haven't even
That's
seen
it.
him use it. He just said it's good.
Yeah, I know. I'm tired of people theory moaning about it. Like somebody actually use it for the love of God.
Yeah, please do. So if anyone uses Flapple or Blunder Policy, Zap Cannon Magneton, please leave us a comment, drop some replays, tell us on Discord, whatever. We would love to see it. Otherwise, we'll hopefully be back next week. I'll try not to forget this time. So thanks for tuning in.